One of the main points from that book was the foundation of all the facets of a high functioning team is trust. And without trust, everything else doesn't have stable footing. It gets eroded. What does justice have to do with leadership? I can say in my readings, my studies, but also in my experience as a leader, one of the most important things for a well functioning team is trust. Foundation of trust beyond anything else. Patrick Lencioni, he wrote a book called Five Dysfunctions of the Team. Very good book. It's a lessons told through an allegory. Um, One of the main points from that book was the foundation of all the facets of a high functioning team is trust. And without trust, everything else doesn't have stable footing. It gets eroded. And us as leaders, we have an obligation and responsibility to hold the line on all of the expectations that we set, both in conduct and performance for the people that work for us. And the consistency in which we do that with well founded decision making and rationale, backed by whatever policy exists or whatever social norms are understood, or whatever your internal moral code that you're able to communicate. The consistency of all of that is what contributes to their perception of you and how fair and equitable you levy discipline and accountability. And it's not about being authoritarian, but somebody's got to hold the line. And at the end of the day, everything your team does is your fault, for better or for worse. And you always pass down praise for sure, but there's nowhere to point the finger if things start falling short. And, a lot of times that's due to leadership negligence, lack of supervision, or not holding people to the standard. You don't got to rub their nose in it, but you do have to be consistent with it and make it clear what the expectation is. Now, some things that'll get in the way of embodying a justice trait is undue variability in how you enforce situations. We don't get to choose what policies we want to follow. Being as consistent with that across the board makes things a lot easier because you actually have an opportunity to rely on the black and white. But the flip side is, and I'm finding this more and more the longer that I'm in a higher level leadership position, is what is right and what is wrong is not quite as clear as I would like it to be a lot of times. It's easy when there's a specific policy that was broken and there's a process that's already been established to address that. But what makes it difficult is when your people are functioning in this gray area of not 100% wrong, not 100% right. There's not a clear cut way to handle the situation. That's when your mettle as a leader starts to be tested. I can tell you what the answer is not. In those situations, the answer is probably not doing nothing. The answer is not going to be inaction. Doesn't mean you need to drop the hammer, but something needs to be done. Because if there's friction in the air, it's part of your responsibility to clear it, whether or not there's something nefarious happening or not. At the very least, you should address it. And if it involves individuals, you should cue those people in on what's happening and communicate what the perceptions are, and then try to find out what your best approximation of the truth is and act from there. But you can't just let stuff fester because you don't want it to be a question mark in how you're going to react in your people's minds. You should be predictable. Act when you're supposed to act. Hold the line. Hold your people accountable. Care for them. But do your job. Out.